Imagine making billions of dollars without ever producing a product, opening a store, or pitching to a single customer. It sounds impossible, almost like a fantasy from a business magazine. Yet, one woman managed to do exactly that, quietly, methodically, and almost invisibly. She didn't chase trends or hype. She didn't launch a tech startup, invent a gadget, or become a social media sensation. Instead, she built a fortune that today stands at $9 billion, and she did it without ever selling anything at all. It's a story that challenges everything we think we know about money, wealth, and the way the world rewards effort, and it begins with a lesson we all ignore. Wealth doesn't come from sudden breakthroughs. It comes from patient, repetitive, and sometimes painfully ordinary habits that accumulate over time. Most people imagine that wealth is flashy, fast cars, expensive vacations, and extravagant homes. But the reality is far less glamorous. The reality is far more powerful. The real engine behind fortunes isn't a new product or a viral idea. It's invisible decisions, repeated over decades. Every choice you make about money leaves a ripple effect, and very few people notice the patterns until it's either too late or too early. Those extra $5 you spend on a daily coffee, the subscriptions you forget to cancel, the impulse purchases at the mall, these seem harmless in the moment, but over years, they quietly shape your financial life. On the other side, those small disciplined habits, saving a little more, investing consistently, avoiding debt, compound into fortunes that feel almost magical. But in reality, they're the result of steady patience. The woman at the center of this story understood this principle better than almost anyone. She didn't rely on luck or celebrity. She relied on time, discipline, and the invisible power of money growing quietly. Her wealth wasn't a product of hustle culture. It was a product of behavioral consistency. She understood that money can be made without active effort if you allow your assets to do the heavy lifting. And her life is proof of a simple but profound idea. You don't need to sell anything to build extraordinary wealth. You need to think in decades, not months. You need to let your money grow while you live your life, quietly, in the background. Her journey wasn't glamorous, but it was extraordinary. She avoided the trap most people fall into, living paycheck to paycheck even as income rises. She avoided unnecessary debt. She invested in assets that appreciate over time, and she reinvested every possible return back into growth opportunities. While others were chasing instant gratification, buying trendy cars, or upgrading apartments every few years, she made conscious decisions to live below her means. Even as her net worth grew, her lifestyle remained surprisingly simple. The lesson here is subtle but critical. The human tendency to keep up with others is one of the biggest obstacles to wealth. We constantly measure ourselves against peers, social media, advertisements, or what society tells us is a normal standard of living. By resisting that, she created room for her money to grow exponentially. One of the central principles she followed was consistent investing. Every month, a fixed portion of her income went into assets, stocks, media holdings, and real estate that could grow quietly over time. She didn't try to time the market. She didn't chase every hot trend. She simply allowed the magic of compounding to do its work. To understand how this works, imagine investing just $500 a month at an average annual return of 8%. In 30 years, that modest amount grows to over $1 million, and she wasn't investing a modest amount. She was investing significant portions of her growing income. But the principle is the same. Consistency outweighs timing. Many people waste years trying to pick the right stock or buy at the perfect time, but those who invest steadily, even in ordinary assets, eventually build extraordinary wealth. The patience to wait, combined with disciplined contributions, is far more important than any short-term speculation. She also avoided debt that didn't build wealth. Many people borrow to buy depreciating items, cars that lose value, designer clothes, or luxury gadgets. These purchases drain your future potential. She borrowed strategically, only for investments that could generate returns, like property or media acquisitions, and completely avoided consumer debt. The impact of this decision is enormous. Paying a few $100s in credit card interest might seem insignificant, but over decades, that lost opportunity to invest could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars left on the table. By being mindful of debt and using it only as a tool for growth, she preserved the compounding power of her capital. She focused relentlessly on owning assets rather than earning a higher paycheck. Most people believe that earning more directly equals wealth, but that's a misconception. Income only matters if it's deployed wisely. She understood that owning assets that generate returns, whether through dividends, appreciation, or media royalties, is what truly builds financial independence. Her portfolio included media companies that produced ongoing revenue, real estate that appreciated over time, and diversified stock holdings. Each asset contributed quietly to the growth of her fortune without requiring her constant involvement. Her money was working harder than she ever did. Another habit she practiced was reinvesting every return. Dividends, rental income, and profits weren't spent. They were immediately put back into growth opportunities. Reinvestment is one of the most powerful financial tools most people overlook. A small dividend reinvested every month grows significantly over decades. For example, $10,000 invested with a 5% dividend reinvested grows to more than $70,000 in 20 years, compared to $26,000 if withdrawn. This habit alone exemplifies the exponential difference between short-term consumption and long-term thinking. The challenge, of course, is resisting the urge to spend extra money, to treat gains as disposable income. But that self-restraint, boring as it may feel, is the secret engine behind serious wealth. Patience, as she understood, was critical. Wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. She didn't seek immediate returns or quick flips. Instead, she spent years quietly building her portfolio, allowing compounding to amplify her decisions. The difference between investing for 10 years versus 30 is staggering. $1,000 at an 8% annual return grows to over $10,000 in 30 years, but only just over $2,000 in 10 years. Time is the ultimate ally, and yet so many people are impatient, chasing fleeting trends or market hype. Her calm understanding of this principle allowed her to harness time as a multiplier rather than a constraint. Lifestyle inflation, the habit of increasing spending as income grows, was something she carefully avoided. Even as her wealth multiplied, she maintained simple routines and modest choices. Most people fall into the trap of upgrading their lifestyle with every raise or bonus, unknowingly nullifying the benefits of their hard work. She recognized that wealth isn't about spending, it's about preserving capital and letting it grow. By keeping her lifestyle flat and reinvesting the difference, she allowed compounding to accelerate her fortune quietly and relentlessly. She also focused on knowledge and understanding rather than chasing trends. Many investors fall prey to the fear of missing out, jumping from one hot opportunity to another without comprehension. She avoided speculative fads and concentrated on investments she understood deeply. Traditional media and real estate formed the backbone of her portfolio, providing consistent returns over decades. Research shows that those who invest in what they understand consistently outperform those chasing trendy, high-risk bets. This patience, knowledge, and understanding of fundamentals allowed her to navigate economic cycles calmly and confidently. Taxes, often overlooked by ordinary investors, were another area where her discipline shone. By using tax-efficient strategies and structures, she preserved more capital for growth. Even small percentages saved annually from capital gains or estate taxes, compounded over decades, translate into millions of dollars. Most people focus solely on gross earnings, unaware that neglecting taxes can quietly erode decades of compounding. Her careful approach turned what many see as a burden into an advantage, accelerating her financial growth further. Even when people understand these principles intellectually, applying them consistently is another challenge entirely. Psychological factors, social comparison, instant gratification, convenient spending, marketing influence, and the fear of missing out constantly push against disciplined behavior. She recognized these forces and structured her life to minimize their impact. Automating investments, avoiding conspicuous consumption, and maintaining long-term focus insulated her from the traps that derail most people's financial ambitions. Another critical habit she practiced was maintaining a mindset of continuous learning. While many people chase shiny headlines or the latest market fads, she devoted time to understanding the industries in which she invested. Knowledge was her moat. She read financial reports, studied media trends, and tracked property values meticulously. By understanding the forces shaping her investments, she avoided the common pitfall of speculation and impulsive decision-making. This wasn't about being smarter than everyone else in the room. It was about creating a framework where each decision was informed, measured, and aligned with long-term goals. The calm assurance that comes from knowledge allowed her to resist panic during market downturns, and to act decisively when opportunities arose that others overlooked. She also mastered the art of reinvestment in a very deliberate way. While most investors treat dividends, rental income, or interest as extra cash to spend, she immediately redirected all returns into more growth opportunities. Reinvestment might seem like a small decision, but over decades, it has exponential effects. Consider this. A simple reinvestment of a modest $10,000 with a 5% annual return compounds to over $70,000 in 20 years. Now, Imagine the scale when hundreds of thousands or millions are reinvested consistently. The effect is staggering. What most people see as ordinary interest, dividends, or rental payments became her silent army of wealth creation. And the brilliance of it was that she never allowed lifestyle desires to siphon this power. Each dollar stayed in the system, quietly multiplying while the world around her chased fleeting thrills. Patience, as she understood, was not just a virtue. It was the single most important tool in her financial arsenal. In a culture obsessed with speed, instant gratification, and viral trends, she embraced the long game. She recognized that compounding does not reward haste or emotion. $1,000 invested at 8% for 10 years barely doubles, but the same amount over 30 years grows tenfold. This understanding shaped her approach not only to investing, but to her daily financial choices. She made decisions with decades in mind, knowing that small advantages today would snowball into massive gains tomorrow. The patience to resist impulses, to delay gratification, and to let assets grow on their own timetable became a defining characteristic of her empire. Lifestyle inflation, the subtle but powerful force that erodes wealth, was something she actively fought against. Even as her fortune grew, she maintained modest personal habits. She avoided upgrading her lifestyle with every new financial milestone, a habit that traps many high earners. Maintaining a flat lifestyle while income rises frees more capital for investment, allowing compounding to accelerate quietly. By contrast, those who increase spending alongside income often see little to no growth in net worth over decades, trapped in the invisible treadmill of social comparison. Her restraint wasn't about deprivation, it was about freedom. By choosing to spend less than she could, she bought herself decades of financial independence that most people only dream of. A lesser-known but equally crucial habit was her attention to tax efficiency. Many investors focus solely on returns, ignoring how taxes silently erode wealth over time. She leveraged legal structures, tax-advantaged accounts, and smart strategies to minimize losses from capital gains, dividends, and estate obligations. The impact of this foresight is enormous. Avoiding just a couple of percentage points in annual taxes compounds to millions over decades. While most people overlook taxes until it's too late, she treated tax strategy as an integral part of her financial discipline. This attention to detail allowed her capital to work harder, faster, and longer than the average investors. Even as she practiced all these habits, she understood the human psychology behind financial failure. She knew that awareness alone isn't enough. The hardest part is consistently aligning behavior with knowledge. People struggle because of lifestyle pressures, social comparison, and marketing tactics designed to exploit emotional impulses. Instant gratification tempts spending today at the expense of security tomorrow. Fear of missing out drives investment mistakes, while convenience makes small but repeated expenditures feel harmless. She structured her life to minimize these pressures, automating investments, limiting exposure to advertisements, and consciously avoiding social traps. By reducing friction and temptation, she created an environment where disciplined choices were the default, not the exception. Her strategies might sound like a list of rules, but in practice, they were a philosophy. Money should serve as a tool for freedom, not a source of stress or social validation. She consistently prioritized control over ego, long-term gains over short-term excitement, and understanding over speculation. Every investment, every habit, every decision aligned with this principle. She treated her financial life as a system designed to amplify good behavior, rather than relying on luck, chance, or hype. Over time, this system compounded quietly, invisibly, yet with staggering results. One particularly revealing example of her approach comes from her media investments. Instead of chasing the latest trending companies, she focused on acquiring stakes in publications, networks, and digital platforms that had consistent revenue and enduring value. These assets generated revenue passively, growing steadily over decades. Unlike a typical business owner, she did not manage day-to-day operations. She did not sell products or market aggressively. Her wealth grew because she understood the power of owning systems that produce continuous income and appreciation without requiring constant personal involvement. This principle applies universally. The most reliable path to financial independence often comes from owning assets that work for you, not from selling time for money. At its core, her journey teaches a lesson that applies to everyone, not just billionaires. True wealth is rarely flashy. It is often invisible. It comes from habits repeated daily, from patience, from resisting immediate gratification, and from making small, disciplined choices consistently over decades. It is the quiet decisions, the automated investments, the modest lifestyle, the reinvested returns that shape financial futures more than any bold gamble or viral success ever could. She didn't need to sell a product because she built a system where her money was always working, always growing, and always compounding quietly in the background. If you take a step back and look at her strategies, you realize that they aren't mysterious or unattainable. They are practical actions anyone can start today. The first step is automation. One of the quietest yet most powerful tools in building wealth is simply letting your money move itself. Setting up automatic transfers from your checking account into investments or savings accounts removes the friction of decision-making. It removes the temptation to spend what you could save. Imagine transferring just a small portion of your paycheck every month into an index fund or a retirement account. At first, it might feel like nothing, almost negligible, but over 10, 20, 30 years, that small automated habit grows into a fortress of financial security. The beauty of automation is that it takes the burden of discipline off the moment and places it into the system. You don't have to rely on willpower every day. The system quietly enforces the habit. The next step is learning to track spending honestly. Many people are surprised at where their money goes because small, repeated expenses are easy to ignore. That daily latte, the monthly subscription you forgot to cancel, the impulse purchase online, all of it adds up. By simply tracking every expense for a month or two, you begin to see patterns. You start to notice how much goes to convenience, social pressure, or habits you barely recognize. From there, you can set realistic spending rules. Perhaps it's capping dining out to once a week, canceling unused subscriptions, or delaying non-essential purchases for 24 hours. These small tweaks don't feel dramatic, but when repeated consistently, they free up thousands of dollars annually, money that can go directly into investments or savings. Another habit she modeled in her own life is consciously resisting lifestyle inflation. It's tempting, when income rises, to upgrade your home, car, wardrobe, or travel experiences. But each upgrade consumes the very capital that could be working for you. She chose to maintain simple living standards even as her fortune grew, creating a margin for investment. For an everyday example, imagine getting a promotion that increases your income by $1,000 a month. Most people might immediately spend that extra $1,000, but if you keep spending the same and invest the extra automatically, you have $1,000 every month growing with compound interest. Over 20 years, that seemingly small decision could result in over $500,000 in additional wealth. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but it is relentlessly effective. Avoiding high-interest debt is equally crucial. She avoided the consumer debt trap entirely, borrowing only for investments that would appreciate. Most people underestimate the cost of carrying high-interest debt. That $500 monthly credit card payment doesn't just drain your cash, it represents lost compounding potential. If that $500 had been invested at 8% annually for 30 years, it could have grown to nearly $500,000. Recognizing this hidden cost shifts the perspective. Paying off debt is not just about relief. It's about reclaiming future financial freedom. Investing in what you understand is another actionable lesson. Fads and hot tips are everywhere, but true wealth accumulates when you commit to strategies you comprehend deeply. If you understand stocks, index funds, or real estate fundamentals, stick to them. Avoid the pressure to chase every trendy opportunity. This isn't about playing it safe, it's about playing it smart. The more you understand your investments, the less likely you are to panic when markets fluctuate. The calm patience to hold through uncertainty is what turns ordinary investing into extraordinary results. Reinvesting returns is also something anyone can start immediately. Dividends, rental income, interest, rather than spending them, put them back into growth. Even small amounts compound dramatically. For example, if you receive $50 in dividends each month and reinvest it at a conservative 5%, that money doubles and doubles again over decades. The difference between spending your returns today and reinvesting them is often the difference between financial independence at 45 versus 75. Another practical step is building an environment that reduces temptations and simplifies decision-making. She did this by automating investments, limiting exposure to marketing triggers, and reducing unnecessary consumption. You can do the same. Use apps that round up purchases and invest the spare change, unsubscribe from promotional emails, or even set cooling-off periods for discretionary spending. These small behavioral adjustments, repeated daily, create a system where good financial decisions happen naturally, without relying solely on willpower. Understanding the psychological forces that erode wealth is equally actionable. Recognize the pull of social comparison, the lure of instant gratification, and the FOMO that drives impulsive purchases. Awareness is the first step. Once you notice these triggers, you can consciously pause, reflect, and choose differently. For example, if you feel pressure to buy a new gadget because everyone else has one, step back and ask, will this help me build wealth, or will it slow me down? That simple pause, repeated often, can prevent years of lost opportunity. Finally, start small, but start now. Many people delay financial discipline because it feels daunting, or they think they need to earn more first. But the most effective approach is incremental. Save a little more than you did yesterday. Reinvest even a small return. Automate transfers of a modest sum. Over months and years, these small actions accumulate into life-changing outcomes. What feels like tiny progress in the present multiplies into massive results over decades, and that is exactly what she did to transform her wealth from ordinary to extraordinary. As we reflect on her journey, one idea becomes crystal clear. The accumulation of wealth is rarely about what you do in grand gestures, but about what you choose to do every single day. The billions she built weren't earned through risk-taking stunts, viral ideas, or overnight luck. They were earned by showing up consistently, with small, deliberate actions repeated for decades. Each choice to invest rather than spend, each decision to live simply, each act of patience and restraint compounded into something extraordinary. It's almost invisible while it's happening, but looking back over years, the results are undeniable. Think about it. She didn't sell products. She didn't market, pitch, or hustle for customers. Yet, her wealth became real, tangible, and life-changing. Her secret wasn't cleverness or fortune. It was discipline. And discipline, as we've seen, isn't glamorous. It doesn't show up on social media. It doesn't come with headlines. But it is far more powerful than any fad or flashy success. Her empire reminds us that the most effective wealth-building strategies are often silent, steady, and invisible. What seems ordinary in the moment becomes extraordinary over time. This story is a mirror for our own financial lives. Every dollar we save, every return we reinvest, every temptation we resist, is a seed planted for the future. It may feel small now, almost insignificant, but the compounding effect is profound. Patience, consistency, and awareness create a kind of financial gravity that slowly but surely pulls us toward independence. Each choice reinforces the next, and over years, decades, it creates a foundation strong enough to carry freedom, security, and opportunity. And yet, it isn't just about money. Her story teaches a deeper lesson about life itself. Wealth, in its purest form, is the freedom to make choices unconstrained by necessity. The habits she practiced, living below her means, investing, avoiding impulsive spending, learning, and staying patient, aren't rules to follow rigidly. They are a philosophy of autonomy, reflection, and intentional living. By creating a life where small actions accumulate quietly, she gained more than financial security. She gained time, freedom, and control over her own destiny. You don't need billions to apply these lessons. The same principles work for anyone, at any stage of life. You can start today, even with small amounts. Automate what you can, reinvest returns, avoid debt that doesn't serve you. Resist the pressure to upgrade your lifestyle unnecessarily. Learn, observe, and act deliberately. Over years, decades even, these small, steady decisions will yield results that feel magical. But they are, in reality, the natural consequence of disciplined behavior compounded over time. So as we return to the opening thought, the woman who built $9 billion without selling a single product, remember that her power didn't come from boldness, hype, or extraordinary talent. It came from everyday choices, multiplied over decades, made in quiet, invisible moments. The lesson is both humbling and empowering. Wealth isn't an accident. It's a reflection of discipline, patience, and the courage to make decisions today that favor your future self. Every financial choice is a story. Every dollar saved, every investment made, every unnecessary purchase avoided is a chapter in that story. Over time, the chapters build a legacy, often silently, often invisibly, until one day, decades later, the sum total is extraordinary. That is the power of consistency, patience, and quiet discipline. That is the lesson she leaves us. Wealth is not about selling products, chasing trends, or being flashy. Wealth is about creating a life that allows your money to grow while you live your life, making choices that serve not your immediate desires, but your long-term freedom. And so, as you move through your own financial life, the question to ask yourself isn't how to get rich fast. The question is far simpler, yet more profound. What small action can I take today that my future self will thank me for 10, 20, 30 years from now? Make that choice, repeat it, and watch the quiet, invisible power of patience and discipline create something that feels almost impossible in the moment, but inevitable in the long run.